and frightening dream is experienced by a youngster called Tohru at the beginning of the episode. He finds himself standing in a barren setting in his dream. A mysterious young girl leans down in front of him to draw complex mathematics and symbols on the dry ground. Intrigued to find her suddenly aware of Tohru's presence, Tohru hesitates, uncertain of what to do. He expects the girl, whose name is still unknown, to come closer to embrace him, but instead she doesn't, and he rushes to where she was writing. A set of intricate mathematical formulas, tastefully inscribed on the desolate landscape. Tohru wakes up out of his nightmare with a chilly perspiration on his forehead. His heart continues to race as he makes an effort to get rid of the unsettling sensation. He goes to make breakfast in the kitchen. A feeling of impending doom permeates the room as Tohru eats his breakfast and gets ready for the day, all thanks to the news that is playing in the background. As they report on the strange disappearances affecting the city, the news anchor's voice is grave. The majority of people believe that the mysterious desert syndrome is to blame for these strange events, a phenomena in which organic stuff mysteriously turns into fine, gritty sand. There are those who refute the allegations with a variety of scientific answers, calling it all out as complete gibberish. Tohru, who is still troubled by the dream, is shown walking to school in this scene. Toru's dream is abruptly interrupted by a surge of energy. Kyoka Katajiri, a girl with pink hair, rushes toward him from behind. She's a close friend with an infectious energy that's difficult not to be drawn to. They pass an accident site on their way to school. Tohru remembers the disturbing dream he had the night before about the enigmatic girl and the weird calculations when he sees it. Kyoka observes his abrupt digression into contemplation. Tohru says it's simply a weird dream when she asks him what's wrong. Hiyoma, Kyoka's older brother who is protective, sees them holding hands as they travel further. A look of annoyance crosses his features, and he chooses to pursue them with Shizune, his servant. When Tohru eventually makes it to his classroom, he does so while dodging Kyoka's brother's vigilant gaze. He walks in and finds several of his students immersed in a heated debate about the town's apparent case of desert syndrome. After a little while, everyone calms down and class starts. Their teacher dives into an intriguing history of medieval Japan and presents the mysterious KK matrix, a system that assigns a grade to each individual based on their social, economic, mental, and physical attributes. But Tohru is categorized as belonging to Class D, which denotes a lesser position. It's time for the real combat drill after the presentation. Tohru is told to beat her brother by Kyoka. She's obviously fed up with his domineering demeanor, and believes Tohru may use this as a chance to teach him a lesson. In the meantime, Shizune, who has always been devoted to Kyoka's brother, is ready to take on Kyoka directly. The crowd assembles, excitedly awaiting the bout between these two strong boxers. Shizune and Kyoka fight each other viciously, showcasing their fighting prowess and resolve. Even with Shizune's skill, Kyoka manages to win because of her perseverance and fast thinking. Kyouma, Kyoka's brother, engages Tohru in combat across the training area. Kyouma turns out to be a very strong opponent because to his expertise and self-assurance. Even with Tohru's greatest efforts, Kyouma wins in the end. Later on in the day, Kyoka makes an effort to persuade Tohru to quit restricting his combat skills and talents. Tohru tells her about his fantasy while they stroll together. They run into the same girl across the street just as he is going to explain it. She flees as he rapidly crosses to meet her. When Tohru looks at what she scribbled on the ground, she finds the words "help me." Tohru chooses to follow her, but instead of tumbling into another dimension with Kyoka, he falls from an industrial bridge. It appears like the world they are in is a different one from their own. An altercation between two groups results in explosions and tremors. Eventually, Tohru's doppelganger and Kyoka cross paths. He fires at him. Time seems to slow as Tohru's other self aims and shoots. Tohru's instincts take over and he moves with incredible speed, just missing the bullet that is flying at him. Even if it's just a reaction, the moment seems unreal. Before he can even regain his breath, Remy, an academy first-year student, shows up as savior. Remy has the amazing capacity to mentally manipulate items. Kyoka recognizes Remy and feels relieved. She walks up to him and tells him she isn't afraid of his special skills, a remark that both surprises and reassures Remy. When Tohru's other self succeeds in making their way outside, Kyoka can't help but wonder what's around them. Tohru speculates that they could be in ancient Japan, and Remy nods in agreement. A small child who seems to be asking for Tohru's assistance catches his eye. The image brings back eerie memories of his early years. He recollects being close to his mother's lifeless corpse. A sympathetic woman attempts to get little Tohru to cry, but he doesn't give in. Tohru awakens in the present and finds himself in a strange world. He chooses to go with Shi, an inquisitive robot, who is standing by his side. As she ushers Tohru into a boardroom, a guy who introduces himself as Brian Odner starts to share a startling discovery. He clarifies that although this location can seem to the outside world like a simple Melchizedek Corporation research facility, it's actually a secret operation devoted to preserving their planet from a grave danger. A startling person walks into the room. Kayama, who is being followed by a different version of themselves from another dimension. They find themselves in disbelief upon learning that he is involved in this operation as well. It turns out that the dreaded desert condition is everything than a myth. It's true that people are becoming like sand since the planet they live in is rapidly coming to an end. This frightening assertion is supported by an enigmatic group claiming to be from the future called the Timekeepers. The world has been rocked by their resoundingly precise prophecies on when the next decline would happen. She interrupts Tohru and Kyoka while they are attempting to comprehend this knowledge with further frightening news. She claims that testing have proven beyond reasonable doubt that the alternate versions of themselves are physiologically similar, with a valuable energy cube awarded to the winners. Their weapons are powered by a sophisticated, futuristic source that is this cube, the professor's introduction of them to a time machine. The very device they used to transition into the combat zone marks the culmination of this discovery. He displays curiosity on how Tohru crossed without using the time machine, sounding intrigued and perplexed. The professor queries Tohru about his method of accomplishing this. According to Tohru, he recently fell from a very high location. According to the professor, this is quite likely, because there's a chance that the gravitational pull may help open a portal. Next, the professor demonstrates to them how their weapons may advance into more powerful forms by using the energy cube. Following the presentation, Tohru is shown staring out of a window. Later, in S flashback, Tohru and Kyoka are given a bag holding their weaponry and told to open it whenever they feel ready. Returning to the present, Olga, Tohru's academy tutor, makes a highly alluring approach to Tohru. Tohru tells Olga that he is worried about the abrupt changes, but then she acts irrationally and gives Tohru a live stream of a female being humiliated. Tohru queries her about why she showed him, seeming scared. She tells him that she did it to expose him to the realities of life. Shijun lashes out at her for doing something so repulsive. To help Tohru relax, Shijun gives him some mint tea to sip. Tohru tells him that Kayama is grateful that he saved Kyoka when she has calmed down. She goes on to say that even though he doesn't show it, Kayama holds Tohru in the highest regard and is under a lot of pressure to succeed him as the company's CEO. Tohru is informed by Shijuni that he is under no obligation to perform this task, and her sole purpose for being there is to stay near Kayama and keep him safe. Later that day, Tohru confides in Kyoka about the girl who continues phoning him for assistance and the deaths of his parents. Thanking him for letting her in, Kyoka walks out. Tohru chooses to open the suitcase later that night after reflecting on the events of the day after supper. He opens it with his hand and sees an energy cube and a pistol inside. The pistol changes when he sets the energy cube next to it. Even if he doesn't grasp anything yet, Tohru swears to do his hardest. When Koma picks him up the next day on his way to the lab, Tohru looks forward to seeing him. Koma exudes power within the automobile, highlighting the fact that it is his realm. Furthermore, while they are in it, not even the Melchizedek Corporation has any influence on him. He makes it quite evident that trust is not something that is often bestowed, particularly on someone such as Tohru. Kayama asks a sharp inquiry to start her intensive investigation. What made Tohru choose to become a part of the company? He advises him against responding in a general way and instead calls for genuineness. Despite the pressure, Tohru says that a girl who has been contacting him for assistance is one of the reasons he joined. Without thinking, Kayama puts the girl's picture on a screen. He discloses that he has security keeping an eye on Kyoka and that they report on her whereabouts. He warns Tohru not to tell anybody about this knowledge. At that moment, Shijuni appears as if by magic and reveals herself to be one of the bodyguards. She says that she stayed concealed since people have a lot of blind spots. When Tohru gets at the lab, one of the employees, Kumi, shows up on a screen to let him know that his battlesuit is in his locker. She goes on to say that the suit serves as a barrier and counteracts the effects of gravity during time jumps. A flashback sequence shows Tohru learning in the car that the lady he's been seeing is a ghost, a creature from another dimension, and the clearest form they've been able to capture while he dons his battlesuit. After getting ready, Tohru goes to the battleground and meets a soldier named Eren at the door. Eren tells him he's made of flesh and bone and that he saw himself kill his other self in another dimension. Eren stresses the need of being prepared for fight as they head toward the training arena, knowing that the timekeepers might summon them at any time. He uses this as a chance to find out how Eren felt about killing his other self. Eren answers with a firm stance. He knows that as a soldier, he may be killed on the battlefield at any time. Upon arriving at the training ring, they witness Kyoka and Remy hard at work in their training. Toru's entrance diverts Kyoka, who runs over to show him her new fighting outfit. Seizing the opportunity, Eren tells Kyoka right away that she must always be vigilant on their perilous missions and cautions her against turning her back on an adversary during combat. After that, Shijuni and Tohru practice in comb. When she overcomes him, Remy launches a surprise attack on her. Tohru summons his might and shoves Shiden aside with lightning speed. We find out that Tohru possesses a unique talent known as the nth dimension space function, which enables him to move extremely quickly in order to dodge blows from weapons. We find out that Remy is a psychic that was made in a lab when Shijuni threatens her for hitting her. They utilize the time machine to travel to the war arena as soon as the timekeepers summon them back for another battle. A fight breaks out between the two groups. Tohru informs Kyouma that he wants to go explore the ghost girl during the conflict. Kyouma allows him to do this in 2.5 minutes. When Tohru splits from the group, he runs into the girl, who informs him that nothing is set in stone. Emerging from behind, Remy informs Tohru that these ghosts are illusory due to the uncertainty of the future and that she may also be their adversary. Kyouma contacts Tohru to ask him to go back to the fight. Regretfully, the other Tohru attempts to kill Kyouma from behind before Tohru can actually join the squad. However, Shijun intervenes to save him, and in doing so, she loses her life. In a moving memory, Shijun gives Kyouma a tea service with elegance. In this private moment, Kyouma admits that he has been harsh with Shijun, particularly in regards to his sister and Tohru. In appreciation for Kyouma's patience, Shijun requests 60 minutes of her time. In the present, Shijun's doppelganger holds a pistol at him with the intention of killing him after she heroically gives her life to save Kyouma. From Shijuni's dead body comes a bomb. When she leaped in to defend Kyouma, she had been clutching it. When the bomb goes off, Kyouma's twin vanishes and both of them are forced to flee the scene. Following the incident, Tohru spends time by herself in the shower with the burden of remorse. He holds himself accountable for abandoning the group to look into the Phantom Girl. However, Kyouma, furious and distraught, hits him and shouts that he is to blame for Tohru's departure. Eren steps in and stops Kyouma from striking again. They receive an energy cube as their prize from the timekeepers. Eren expresses his displeasure, saying the cube is insufficient recompense for losing their friend. But the professor corrects him, pointing out to everyone that a human life cannot be measured in this way. Later on that day, Kyouma fulfills his vow to dedicate 60 minutes of his time as a memorial to Shijuni's memories. It's a somber gesture of mourning for his departed friend. Two girls talk about their buddy Minori's disappearance as they make their way to school the next morning. One speculates that it may be the desert syndrome, whereas the other dismisses this hypothesis. One of the females abruptly turns into sand as they continue their argument, serving as a sobering reminder of the harsh reality they all must deal with. When Kyoka visits Tohru in his room, he is overcome with guilt about Shijuni's passing. Feeling that he must accept responsibility for everything, Kyoka sobs, making Tohru understand how much he has messed up, acknowledging that they must share the difficulties they all carry. He apologizes to Kyoka. As the day wears on, Kumi's voice is heard over the speakers, informing everyone that the timekeepers have announced the next phase of combat, and asking everyone to assemble. The troops congregate in one room. They stared at Kumi as she revealed the precarious situation of the mission. The first group to reach a tower that the timekeepers have indicated on the map will earn a prize 5 times larger than their normal energy cube allotment, she says. Tohru stays focused on evaluating the skills and talents of each team member even as the room erupts in excitement and plans start to take shape. Tohru claims he's the most qualified person for this assignment during a planning meeting. At first, Kyouma disagrees and tests Tohru by unexpectedly shooting at him. Luckily, Tohru's lightning-fast reflexes allow him to avoid the approaching shot, winning Kyouma's approval. As soon as possible, the remainder of the squad gets ready to help Tohru in this dangerous undertaking. While everything is getting ready, she gives Kyoka a unique set of armor and warns her that this cutting-edge equipment will put additional stress on her energy cube. Unfazed, Kyoka puts on the armor, prepared to take on any obstacles that may come her way. While being carried to the arena, Kyouma gives Tohru the assurance that he would keep an eye on him throughout the task. When they get to the battleground, there is a magnificent fight between the two groups. As Kyouma and the others give crucial air support, Kyoka takes her twin head-on. Tragedy befalls the scene when Olga is fatally shot in the belly by Shiden's double during the confusion. She kills her attacker in the last moments of her life. The destiny of their universe is at stake, and the battlefield devolves into a chaotic battleground. With the goal of getting to the tower first, Tohru and his twin fight fiercely. When Tohru starts to have second thoughts, Kyouma keeps his word and reassures him of their trust in him and their support. Regaining his confidence, Tohru continues the fight, matching the blow for blow with his twin until they both reach the tower at the same time, which is a crucial point in their goal. Inside the tower, Tohru and his twin resume their fierce combat. Their unmatched accuracy and lightning-fast reactions provide for an unmatched level of intensity in combat. When things get out of control, the timekeeper steps in and tells them to stop fighting so they don't break any game regulation. Shiduni assumes the guise of the timekeeper. It grabs Tohru's interest. They greet Tohru in this garb and say that they took on Shiduni's look to make conversation easier. When both groups reach the tower at the same moment, the timekeepers choose to award them equally. Tohru, on the other hand, doesn't seem interested in the prize and instead asks the timekeeper who they are. They are from the future, as the timekeepers demonstrate, and to prevent an approaching calamity from occurring in the current world is their mission. In the meantime, the fighting continues unabatedly back on the battlefield. Although Mondo is aware that the objective has been accomplished, he also knows that the resistance will not be easily defeated. Kayama advises Tohru to handle the remainder of the fight while making a smart withdrawal. Kyoka, on the other hand, is still engaged in battle with her twin. The scorching strikes of her doppelganger have imprisoned her and Remy. Their position gets worse when Ludmilla strikes from the air, pushing them out of their cover, even though Remy offers to set up a distraction to help them escape. They make the decision to part ways, with Ludmilla pursuing Kyoka nonstop and Remy choosing to ambush her from behind. The focus of the scene changes to Tohru's twin, who wonders why the timekeeper is protecting them. According to the timekeeper, their planets will develop time warp technology in the not-too-distant future, allowing their boundaries to expand. What connection does this have to the timekeepers attacking each other? Wonders Tohru's doppelganger. The timekeepers clarify that this is to reduce damage since, once their planets achieve this technology, it will set off a catastrophic conflict that would wipe out both worlds. When Kyoka returns to the battlefield, she uses the unique armor that she gave her to keep Remy safe. She makes fun of her double for not having such sophisticated equipment, which makes her angry and gives them cover to make their getaway possible. Both Kyoka and Ludmilla seize the chance to escape as well. Furious, Remy makes up her mind to go after them, but Eren stops her and tells her to go while he follows after Remy. The professor is informed by Kumi that the soldiers are enduring a difficult withdrawal as a result of their resolute opposition. The professor considers the difficulties of their goal while seeing the natural impulses of soldiers to defend themselves in combat. He believes these tendencies to be incredibly barbarous. Tohru, consumed with worry and curiosity, asks the timekeeper how the creation of the time warp machine relates to the approaching conflict. His specter approaches to offer the somber reason. Humanity's never-ending greed is what will eventually cause strife between their planets. The two universes will unavoidably collide in a frantic struggle for dominance due to the attraction of fresh resources and advantages provided by time warp technology. The timekeepers then reveal an eerie projection depicting the approaching conflict, a vicious war that will destroy everything and tear apart both universes. They stress that the fact that these worlds have no future directly contributes to the continual deterioration, and they believe that the only way to end the conflict is to let it drag on until one world is totally destroyed. The war outside rages on as this terrible realization sets in. With a goal to exact revenge, Kayoma faces battle against Shijun's twin. Nevertheless, Kyoka's twin sister shows in and cuts short their conversation. Kyoka's doppelganger takes advantage of the situation and quickly removes her, leaving Kayoma to consider his next move. Remy and Ludmilla are engaged in a fierce combat while this is going on. Remy realizes too late that his opponent's weapon is significantly more advanced than he is. Sensing that this is a dangerous scenario, he decides to strategically back down, understanding that it would be pointless to fight such a massive army at this point. Desperate to get her off his tail, he unleashes a torrent of blows. He uses a cunning plan, taking advantage of her dependence on the sensors, and wins a fiercely contested victory by defeating her. In the middle of the confusion and unpredictability, Tohru's double asks the timekeepers for clarification on the crucial choice of which world will end. The mysterious timers explain that they had to be as involved as possible. For this reason, they only provide energy cubes to the winners of every fight. This methodology guarantees that the participants themselves choose the outcome in the main. Undeterred, Tohru's twin questions why 2015 was selected as the battleground. According to the timekeepers, this year is halfway between other years, between the two worlds, offering their high-stakes game a fair and impartial playing field. Returning to the battlefield, Kyoka and Kayoma are able to evade the unrelenting pursuit of their identical twins. But things take a terrible turn when Mondo realizes he's stuck and can't get out. Seeing the seriousness of the situation, he kindly begs his allies to leave him behind and go. Tohru, greatly concerned about what was about to happen to their planets, expresses his conviction that there has to be a method to alter the path of things. He argues against the idea that their destiny is predetermined and in favor of choosing an alternative course, but his twin is still stubborn and negative, which sparks a furious argument between them. Again, the timekeepers step in. Taking advantage of the tension that is growing between Tohru and his doppelganger, they quickly send the group back to their own parallel universes, drastically changing the path that their lives would take. When Tohru awakens, he finds himself in a strange and destroyed world. Kyoka is found comatose on the floor by his doppelganger and a few kids. She greets Tohru and welcomes her to their world with a loving grin. Together, they navigate the barren terrain, passing through a city in ruins that serves as a menacing reminder of a world that has seen the devastation caused by a war or other devastating catastrophe. They eventually reach a building that houses them despite its deteriorated facade. Tohru is led inside by Kyoka's twin, where the wounds from their world's hardships are visible. But the mood unexpectedly changes when Kyoka's twin starts to undress, getting ready for a shower. From the safety of the shower, Tohru reveals to the children that they are orphans who were adopted by Toru's twin sister and that they live in what is called Old Japan. The frontier Stratos is the name of their residence. Both of the doppelgangers eventually leave. She questions whether she is being unfaithful to Tohru. She seems to be seeing someone with Toru's twin. We discover that the city was devastated by battles a century ago as they navigate the city. The survivors are now on their own. Kyoka's twin says that since she was raised in this system, she is accustomed to this way of life. According to Tohru, her world, where their lives are controlled by the government, is superior than his. She says that their economy is managed by clans like the Katagiri clan, which serves as their form of governance. Observing that Tohru is unfamiliar with the Katagiri clan, she finds herself wondering what her older brother would have said. When Tohru finds that her older brother was slain by his party, he begins to apologize, but she stops him and tells him it's okay. The tree behind her is identified by Tohru, who remarks that it seems familiar. It has to have been a tree like the ones they have in his planet, she says, while his twin is still sneaking about the lab until he finds the time machine and begins hacking it after finding a file about Rumi. Kumi and the professor are aggressively looking for Tohru back on his home planet. When the ghost girl materializes, she warns him not to trust the timekeepers. He informs her that neither he nor they are people he believes. Afterwards, we find out that Rumai's twin died before his twin could retrieve the medication for Rumai's therapy, around 3 years after Rumai's twin joined them. She says that this incident altered Toru's doppelganger, who ceased to smile right by Rumai's doppelganger's grave. However, the war they have been engaged in and the energy cubes they have acquired have greatly simplified their lives. As she explains to Tohru, she starts crying. Then he gives her a handkerchief so she may dab at her tears. She expresses gratitude and praises his kindness. She goes on to describe how Toru's doppelganger evolved after Rumi's passing. In the midst of this, Tohru gets a message from Kumi and starts a forced transfer. After giving him his equipment, Kyoka's twin warns him that they will be foes the next time they cross paths. Kyoka discovers Toru's doppelganger, who has successfully hacked their time machine. The bullet is aimed towards Kyoka by Toru's double, but he manages to emerge in time to stop it by firing at the bullet, which regrettably still injures Kyoka. Rumai becomes enraged by this and pursues Toru's twin. He uses an energy cube on himself to substantially increase his powers during the conflict, but it causes him to degenerate into a massive sand whirlwind, and the timekeepers, represented by Shijun, appear and declare that it is time. When his parents enter the house, little Tohru can be seen sketching within his chamber in a dream world. He dashes over to offer them a bear embrace. They choose to get him a new sketching book since the mother says he wants to be pampered today. The scene changes to show little Tohru sitting with his mother next to him while they draw at a park. Tohru chooses to join the two boys who are playing with toy weapons in front of them. When they inquire whether he has a weapon, he checks and pulls out an upgraded energy cube gun. As the scene changes, Tohru tells his parents that they shouldn't be here and flees from them. In the actual world, Kyouma can be seen sitting next to Kyoyuka, who is dozing off in bed. When Tohru encounters Kyoyuka in the fantasy realm, she inquires as to what's wrong. Tohru is taken aback by her seeming health, since he recalls her as being awful. Yet Kyoka refuses to acknowledge this. It's strange that Tohru claims to have seen his parents because legend has it that they are deceased. She gives him a hug and asks him if being with everyone isn't amazing. When Tohru realizes something is off, he turns to escape, but Kyoka stops him in his tracks and asks where he's going. Tohru responds that he must keep everyone safe. When she asks him specifically who, he struggles to think of someone, so he brings up Tsujuni. Saying that she is here, she switches to Sujun. Tohru finds this confusing. She adopts other personas, including Kayuka once more. Tohru shoots her because he is certain now that something is wrong. However, she regenerates, forcing Tohru to run away. Tohru keeps sprinting until he gets to the intersection where all the traffic is red. When Kayuka shows there, she questions him about his escape. She asks which direction he wants to travel while pointing in several directions. There are distinct individuals in each of those scenarios, aging and transforming into bones before becoming sand. Tohru, bewildered, gives Kayuka a hug, and she reassures him that everything is well. When little Tohru awakens on Kayuka's knee, she informs him that he was grunting in his slumber. She gives him her word that she will support him no matter what. He straightens himself and starts looking through his sketchbook. When Kayuka inquires as to what he drew, he opens it further and opens to a page with more mathematical equations and the words "help me" scribbled on top of it. The writing on the ground looks to be the same as what the ghost girl has been writing. When he touches it, the ghost girl greets him and takes him to an empty room. When Tohru's twin returns to reality, she is astounded to learn the actual story behind Desert Syndrome. He instructs his associates to withdraw in order for them to rethink their plans. Tohru is informed by the ghost girl that he has been engulfed by the dead end in the interim. The sandstorm that resulted from Ramai using the energy cube on himself is the dead end. She goes on to say that because everyone's destiny is the same, Ramai became stuck in a dead end when the energy cube accelerated time. She reveals that the energy cube was first created from an odd particle drifting in space as she brings him to the Heliopolis, the edge of the solar system. Time travel was made feasible by the energy cube, which led to its creation and mass production. And not long after, the military turned it into a weapon, visiting parallel universes and destroying them to harvest their riches. She leads Tor to a vacant aircraft where two dummies are pointing guns at one another. She queries what he means by perfection. She asks Tor which is better, a knife or a gun, and he responds that it depends on the circumstances. She continues by saying that a person will die if a weapon is dropped, regardless of how strong it is. The dead end, then, was the point in weapon development where the human body could manufacture weapons out of itself. According to her explanation, time is accelerated by the energy cube until the point when the dead end forms. We discover that the dead end was employed in battles because to its ability to recognize, assimilate, and imitate the enemy's attack while remaining unseen to them. The dead end was, in fact, using them. Ultimately, every live person was swallowed by the dead end, and their souls combined to form the timekeepers. The girl managed to escape in time to warn others, but not before the timekeepers invaded her history. When the timekeepers show there, they attempt to persuade Tohru that the ghost girl is telling lies, and that their only goal is to provide them a happy future in which their aspirations would all come true. Tohru declines, realizing that she was alluding to the imaginary realm he had been in previously. The timekeeper is yelled at by the ghost girl to leave them. She says that she had been attempting to contact him earlier, but the timekeeper keeps interfering and preventing her from speaking, which depletes her energy. When the timekeepers reappear, they warn Tohru that, despite their best efforts, the ghost girl may be attempting to force her own future upon them. He affirms to them that he thinks the ghost girl is real. After touching the energy cube and wishing Tohru success on his endeavor, the ghost girl vanishes. Both sides are left in a position of helplessness as the grave circumstances within the dead end worsen and they are unsure of how to stop the approaching disaster. When Jonathan's twin, acting anxious to break the impasse, takes control of a robot and unleashes it on the mighty dead end, the tension approaches a breaking point. Sadly, the attack causes his quick death, leaving the gang in dire straits. With a sudden and spectacular appearance, Tohru emerges victorious from the dead end, bringing important information to deliver to his allies. Tohru grabs everyone's attention and begins to explain the information that the enigmatic ghost girl has given her. But Kyoama's furious reaction to his serious remarks causes him to quickly aim his rifle at Tohru's double. Charges are made after Kyoama suggests that this mysterious weapon may have been designed to destroy them. Tohru's twin fiercely denies this theory. He retorts that this lethal trap had already claimed the life of their own Jonathan. In the middle of the mounting tension, Rakando and his twin appear out of nowhere and put themselves in the way of the warring parties. Their presence is a powerful reminder that togetherness is wiser than discord. Tohru receives important information from Kyoama that clarifies Rakando's status as the lone survivor of the Benkura men, a live artifact from a different period. When Tohru asks whether the important samples have been sent to the professor, Kyoama responds that everything has been done well. Kai asks Kumi why Dr. Odener is so joyful when they return to the study lab. Kumi clarifies that the professor is constantly content with his little victories since he doesn't think he is as intelligent as everyone thinks he is. Sen talks with the doppelganger of Tohru. During the conflict, Toru's double claims that they have only been able to use the time machine to move small weapons and personal guns. As the scene switches to Jonathan repairing his robot, Shinwo stops by to offer him some water and compliment him on his hard work. According to Jonathan, he needs to put in twice as much work for them to be successful. That's not what she wanted to say. She stops him. She is relieved that Jonathan did not pass away like his twin. He finds this depressing, but in an attempt to lift his spirits, Shinwo attempts to console him. Kiyoma provides Tohru the phone number to talk with Kyoka later that evening. Tohru shows his joy upon discovering she's alright. He pledges to protect Rumi and accompany her on her daily walk to school. That same evening, someone gets in touch with the professor, and he seems to agree with all that is said. The two teams get together the next morning to devise a strategy to win. As Rumi is the core and the dead end is the last stage of the desert syndrome, Kiyoma adds, they must eliminate the core in order to prevent the dead end from engulfing them all. Tohru disputes this, telling them that he can use his sophisticated weaponry to break through the dead end. Surprisingly, his twin concurs with him, and advises the others to prepare a strategy to assist Tohru in carrying out this task. Tohru's double warns him not to mess up the assignment, saying he cannot allow someone with his face to do poorly. The timekeepers enter the scene and inform the ghost girl that she will ultimately become an ally and that nothing she does will alter the course of events. Tohru receives a good luck charm from Kiyoma that was created by Shijun, and he makes a vow to never forgive the timekeepers for using Shijun's visage. In the center of the dead end, Rumi is immersed in a dream. He has nightmares of being tortured, but she and Kyoka save him. Clone Shiz are released by the dead end and assault the troops. There is a fierce conflict between the military and clones. Regretfully, Rikondo and Kusekage perish in the conflict. She becomes enraged by this and chooses to travel to the dead end and penetrate the core. She smashes it and enlists Toru's assistance to save Rumi. At that point, the timekeepers express astonishment at their ability to obliterate the dead end, but they also admit that both of their worlds now know about the energy cubes, and it's just a matter of time until they create the dead end once more. But because of the space dust left behind by the dead end, Kumi and the professor are having problems finding Tohru and Rumi. Tohru discovers a large energy cube floating atop a tower after the dust settles. The team members' lines of contact are re-established as the dust slowly settles, providing a little break from the mayhem. Kumi uses force transfer to securely return Tohru and Rumi to their base of operations, showcasing her inventiveness. When they arrive, things take an unexpected turn, with Dr. Odner giving the go-ahead to put Tohru in jail. Following a time of nervous suspense, Dr. Odner and his twin emerge to explain their plans to Tohru. When Tohru switched worlds with his doppelganger, Dr. Odner discloses that he was able to get in touch with his doppelganger. They divulge a revolutionary discovery. They have solved the mystery of how to make energy cubes, which may allow them to break free from the timekeeper's hold. Encouraged by the information that Tohru returned with, they depict a future freed from the timekeeper's control. Tohru, still in shock from what happened, pays close attention as they explain their strategy. They are hopeful now, but they are also skeptical of Kiyoma's leadership. They highlight the risk that comes with depending just on Kiyoma's leadership, pointing out that he does not have a backup plan, which is an obvious weakness that should not be disregarded. In 2015, Kiyoma gives his allies a summer report while carrying a heavy load of urgency. Time leaps are impossible because of the disruption of the time-space continuum caused by the previous discharge of space dust. There are just 6 minutes left to make the next window, and the team is facing a very difficult situation because missing this window would mean being stuck in 2015 eternally. During a covert discussion, the academics revealed to Tohru that the last obstacle they must overcome is getting rid of all time jumpers, including himself and his countrymen. Tohru is overwhelmed by the seriousness of their plans, but Kumi steps up as a silent hero and activates the sprinkler system. Tohru has a brief opportunity to run thanks to this fortunate diversion. Dr. Odner's voice, disembodied, echoes across the building's speakers, giving a terrifying order to make sure that Tohru is recaptured, which causes Tohru to use the lucky charm that Kiyoma gave him with thinking. This little object turns out to be a powerful instrument. After the guards are vanquished, Kumi unexpectedly appears in Tohru's way and reveals the unpleasant goals the academics are harboring in an open and honest moment. Their plans are centered on the bold objective of removing Kiyoma from his position of authority and breaking the time traveler's monopolistic grasp on the energy cube. In the middle of this realization, Kumi presents Tohru with a sharp viewpoint, calling his search for outside approval an act of immaturity. Lidmilla, a covert ally in the shadows, reaches out to Tohru as he continues on his quest to save Kyoka. She offers to show him how to get to Kyoka's ward after revealing that she has successfully broken into the security camera system. This is a crucial point in their escape strategy, and her help is important. Dr. Ottner, however, is unwavering in his resolve to find Tohru and sends every guard he can muster to keep an eye on the security feeds for any new information. The guards report back that they have not found any evidence of Tohru, even after searching diligently. Examining the security tape, Dr. Ottner notices something strange. Liamdilla's ward's IV levels have not altered, indicating that they are being tricked by a looping video. He quickly orders the guards to turn off the camera feeds and start a manual search for Tohru via the facility's speakers. Following Dr. Ottner's finding, Liamdilla informs Tohru of the bad news. When she realizes that helping will no longer ensure her safety, she decides to cut the connection and wait for whatever comes her way. She becomes the target of the guards as they close in on her location, and they open fire immediately. Kyoma and Eren dash through the facility's hallways at the same time, as if they've figured out a way to get across to where Tohru is. Tohru, meantime, follows Kyoka's ward with such determination that he reaches it just in time to see her expertly defeat the guards. Kyoka is so tired that she is about to lose her balance, but Tohru steps in and grabs her just in time. The Black Crow, the mysterious timekeeper's messenger, delivers a message to them from another dimension. The pitch emphasizes how humans have a voracious need for information, which might eventually drive them to want the energy cube. This might mean that the much-feared dead end would arrive sooner rather than later, which would be a scary sign for their uncertain future. Tohru leads Kyoka as they exit the facility and head for the waiting car, where Olga is waiting for them. They have successfully fled the lab together. Olga shows them Liamdilla's equipment and tells them she has exacted revenge on her fallen colleague as they get comfortable in the car. After that, Olga drives them to one of the safe homes she used to use when she was an assassin. Tohru leads Kyoka, who is obviously exhausted from their journey, to a room upstairs. After carefully tucking Kyoka into bed, Tohru eventually succumbs to tiredness as he leans on a nearby chair. He enters the dream world and finds himself in the ghost girl's moving recollections from her time as a live person. It is revealed that she had a remarkable genius in the field of nanotechnology, having invented a novel technique that allows people to grow back missing limbs. She was unaware, though, that the military had taken advantage of her research, modified it for use in combat, and turned people into living weapons that could create lethal weaponry out of their own bodies. A somber twist on her life's creation. Her research lab is brutally attacked by these altered entities, and tragedy befalls her. She barely makes it out of the shelter of a time machine with the secrets of her discoveries. From a concealed vantage point, the ghost girl watches as Tohru and his group heroically fight off their doppelgangers. She feels responsible for her part in the development of this harmful technology since she thinks of them as their enemies. She floats weightless in another realm, an ethereal presence in the vastness of space. This is when she meets Kyoka and Tohru, her ghostly figure leading them to mysterious marks carved into the floor. When Tohru finally wakes up from his nap, Kyoka is blissfully asleep on his chest. Olga, who is driving, momentarily breaks up their peaceful moment by directing them toward a meeting place with the other members of their team. She tells them that Kumi has created a backdoor into the security systems of the research lab and that their allies are safe, enabling them to reach their goal. A tearful reunion occurs as Remai rushes forward to give Kyoka a hug upon their arrival. Their happiness at being reunited lights up their faces. But as Kyoma walks into the room and sees his long-lost sister, the tone changes to one of poignancy. A sharp smack across the face catches him off guard as he rushes to give her a hug. The group gets together to plan their strategy for taking on the mysterious timekeepers. Every participant offers their perspectives to the creation of an all-encompassing action plan. After the difficult discussion, Eren starts to wonder about Olga's steadfast commitment to the cause. She confides in him. Olga could not stand their callous exploitation of her sister's reputation for their evil actions. Eren, who is dubious of Olga's motivations, finds it hard to accept that Olga might have such a good reason as her motivation. Tohru is having a talk with Eren when Kyoka interrupts and invites him to eat with him. Tohru is urged by Eren to accept the offer. When Tohru says yes, they take a leisurely stroll through a lovely garden and enjoy the calm surroundings. Tohru stops to tell Kyoka that he would want to go to school with her as they are eating. Kyoka asks playful questions on his recent success with the other sex. Tohru's mind briefly flashes to a vision of Kyoka's twin. In a lighthearted way, Kyoka jumps on him after he confesses, creating a touching and unexpected moment. Their first kiss, a tender moment that strengthens their relationship. After their unplanned kiss, Tohru and Kyoka laugh together and realize how strange their circumstances are. On what appeared to be a regular date, getting ready for fight. During their journey back to rejoin the group, Kyoka seizes the chance to ask Tohru about his adventures in the world beyond the portal. Tohru presents a desolate image of a broken and disordered world where even surviving is a daily struggle. They promise to each other that they will both survive the next fight, and Kyoka encourages them by saying so. This strengthens their tie of resolve. The research lab is unexpectedly assaulted while the crew is getting ready, putting them in danger. It's shocking to learn that Olga is to blame for Dr. Odner. One of the people taking part in the assault is Tohru's twin. In a desperate attempt to get out of this terrible circumstance, the group uses the enigmatic equation that the ghost girl carved on the ground as a key to unlock a door that leads to the year 2050. Kyouma divulges an important fact. They can only go back via the portal as long as it stays stable. They have to guard the energy cube and build a time machine to return to their own time in case it collapses. Kyouma gives Tohru one last task before leaving, declaring that having seen them kiss, he needs to earn his sister's approval. Before daring to go through the portal, Tohru takes one last look at his world. The voice of Tohru's double telling the story of his unyielding will to provide a better future for himself and his people, even if it requires him to get his hands filthy. He gathers his crew and gets them ready for the impending conflict with the other team. When they reach to the battleground, Kyouma tells his group to go for their individual doppelgangers since he knows they'll be waiting for them. The two sides engage in a furious struggle that quickly becomes apparent, but one thing stands out. Instead of firing at their doppelgangers, Tohru's crew chooses to dodge their blows. At a crucial juncture, Tohru faces his twin personally, trying to talk sense into his head. He emphasizes the possibility of working together as he suggests a collaboration to end the timekeepers. But his twin is still obsessed with taking possession of the energy cube. Tohru's crew has created a protected space dome that appears out of nowhere among the mayhem. This surprising turn of events causes Tohru's twin to reevaluate his position and end up working with them. They cooperate to build a gateway at the center of the energy cube, which they subsequently enter to confront the powerful force of a violent sandstorm. When Tohru awakens from his train dream, the timekeepers are waiting to ridicule and demoralize him. They expose him to a number of uncomfortable situations in an attempt to convince him not to strive for a better future. They first take him to his mother's grave, where their depressing remarks reverberate. The timekeepers are still trying to weaken his determination with psychological warfare. In the meantime, Tohru's twin goes through his own suffering. He is thrown back into his reality, where he has to endure the agonizing recollection of not being able to save his friend Kenji. The timekeeper continuously reminds him of his perceived incompetence, prompting him to yield to despondency. Remi's doppelganger joins this disconcerting journey, repeatedly questioning why Tohru's doppelganger failed to save him. This torment drives Tohru's doppelganger to tears, but he summons the inner strength to convey that even in death Remi lives on in his heart. In a poignant moment, he shoots Remi's doppelganger. These trials, Tohru appears before his doppelganger. In the midst of the intense battle, Tohru charges towards the timekeeper determined to defeat them. Simultaneously, his doppelganger faces a multitude of shoes in a fierce battle. The timekeepers persist in their attempts to dissuade Tohru, warning him that even if he succeeds in defeating them, he risks jeopardizing the future of his own world. Tohru, however, counters by expressing his belief that life's unpredictability is what gives it its beauty, preferring the uncertainties of reality over a simulated existence. Tohru takes a shot at the timekeeper with his weapon, but they laugh it off as he lacks their precise location to be targeted. In this critical moment, Kimi manages to pinpoint their exact location on the timeline. Tohru fires again, but his weapon lacks the firepower needed to penetrate the timekeeper's shield. Nonetheless, the timekeepers are impressed by the advanced technology Tohru's team developed with limited information about them. Tohru's doppelganger joins forces with him, combining their firepower to breach the timekeeper's shield. With their shield dismantled, Tohru delivers the decisive blow, ultimately destroying the timekeepers. After the battle concludes, the ghost girl reappears, expressing her gratitude for their efforts in defeating the timekeepers. Subsequently, they are returned to the ground, where Tohru's doppelganger raises his weapon, claiming ownership of the energy cube to prevent humanity from exploiting its power. Tohru strongly disagrees with this, and insists on challenging his doppelganger for control of the cube, setting the stage for a potential confrontation between them. A monumental battle unfolds between the two Taurus, both being the most formidable members of their respective teams. The confrontation is characterized by razor-sharp thinking and the utilization of their superhuman reflexes. As their fierce battle rages on, the rest of the two teams reach a consensus. They will cease fighting and leave the outcome to the two Taurus. The victor will claim control of the coveted energy cube. However, Kyoka and her doppelganger, bound by a deep love for their respective Taurus, defy this decision. They engage in a heated battle themselves, exchanging blows as they rush to aid their beloved partners. Amid the clash between Tohru and his doppelganger, Tohru attempts to persuade his counterpart to abandon his pursuit of the energy cube's power. He argues that they have the potential to develop their own technology over time and thrive independently. However, his doppelganger vehemently disagrees, revealing that his world is plagued by poverty and cannot compare to the wealth and prosperity of Tohru's world. As the showdown between Tohru and his doppelganger escalates to its climax, Kyoka and her doppelganger arrive on the scene, just as Tohru's doppelganger is preparing to deliver a potentially fatal blow. Kyoka's doppelganger gives her counterpart the green light, and he unleashes a powerful laser beam aimed directly at Tohru. As the dust settles, Tohru, Kyoka, and her doppelganger find themselves unarmed. Tohru seizes the opportunity and weakens his doppelganger with a well-aimed shot, causing him to collapse to the ground. Kyoka's doppelganger, on the other hand, emerges from her cover and raises her gun, aiming it at Tohru. However, she hesitates as she looks into Kyoka's eyes and sees her counterpart's resolve. She decides not to pull the trigger and rushes to Tohru's side to tend to his wounds. Tohru's doppelganger, still determined, urges Tohru to end his life, warning that he will continue pursuing them relentlessly if he survives. Tohru decides to put an end to the source of their strife, the energy cube. He destroys the cube, and as it shatters, both parties begin to fade away into the unknown. Poignant moment. Tohru and Kyoka share one last kiss, cherishing their love as they vanish along with the remnants of their conflict. Tohru finds himself in another dimension, where he encounters the ghost girl once more. Overwhelmed by questions and doubt, Tohru asks her if he has succeeded in changing the future. The ghost girl confirms that his mission to alter the course of events has indeed been successful. However, she shares her own reflection, wondering if there might have been alternative ways to prevent the world from reaching its catastrophic end. She suggests that Tohru could have used the power of the energy cube to travel back in time and reunite with his parents. Tohru listens to her words, filled with gratitude, but he assures her that his parents would have wanted him to move forward rather than dwell in the past. Before parting ways, Tohru inquires about the possibility of meeting the ghost girl again. She reassures him that they will cross paths once more. As Tohru prepares to leave, he asks her for a name to call her when they meet again. As she has mentioned, she doesn't remember her own. Tohru decides to name her Mickey. Before walking into the welcoming light, the episode concludes with a heartwarming scene as Tohru and the entire team are returned to their respective lives. However, the story takes a heartwarming twist, with Tohru picking up Mickey, who has now become his granddaughter, symbolizing a new beginning and a brighter future. If you like it, do not forget to put the like button and subscribe for more new videos.